What's good with y'all tonight? How you doing? Y'all good? I hope so. I hope the evening is finding you well. I'm getting started fairly late. I was in Indiana with my little boy over the weekend and got on the road late tonight. His mom had some things to do, and I got the honor and privilege to spend an extra time with the most important person in the world to me. I love that kid with everything in me and more. You know, my son, he came into the world under very unfortunate circumstances. You know, he was born at just 24 weeks. Because he was born at 24 weeks, he's on the autism spectrum, but he's a little bit further on the deep end, so it's going to be a lot of work to get him to where he needs to be, but also he was born with a couple of other complications he's going to have to figure out how to work through in life. But even through all that, if I could change him for another soul, one that came with no hitches and no hang-ups and setbacks, I wouldn't do it. Ironically, that is one of the points behind tonight's podcast. Normally I shoot on Mondays, but technically it's Tuesday now, at least where I'm at, but it's still Monday in a lot of other places, so we'll count this as a Monday podcast. Question is, why would anyone ever sign up to be an avatar? The thing is, nobody in their right mind would, but not for reasons you think. Granted, you guys see me go through a lot of shit with ideologues who are aggressive and who are working as agents of corruption sent to disrupt and destroy and wreak havoc against me and whatnot. You witness this in real time. But the personal struggles that come along with this role have absolutely nothing to do with why no one would sign up for this role and why nobody would walk away from it once they become an avatar. Look here, I've already been to heaven. I've already been to the other side of existence. I know that there's nothing that can be done to flesh in the way of imposing suffering or pleasure onto it that can even remotely compare to the bliss that waits on the other side of this form for those who make it into the state condition heaven. I mean, it's no comparison. You know, the human experience, it's a muted experience. Most people think that, the maximum amount of pleasure, the maximum amount of sensation that you can experience has to do with, polarities you experience within the flesh. But when you're not in flesh and there's nothing there to buffer your experience of reality, everything is like a billion times more intense. So, like the best orgasm combined with the best chemical high you could get from a drug, it's muted, it's muffled. Think about it like, the maximum amount of heat the body can endure. Like the maximum amount of heat that the body can endure versus like the intensity of like the sun. What feels hot to flesh is nothing compared to experience outside of flesh. You know what I'm saying? And that same principle that would apply to thresholds for pain and sensitivity to elemental conditions, that same scale, like just thinking about the core of the hottest supernova ever known. Uh, what's hot to the body, what's hot to flesh, is nothing compared to how things are in reality. Again, inside flesh, it's a very muted experience. I mention all this because I've already been to the other realm, and in the other realm, I experienced pure bliss. There's nothing that the flesh can do in the way of creating pain or creating pleasure to match what's on the other side. There's no comparison. So being an avatar and going to the other state and condition and being able to experience bliss in like its pure, unadulterated form, that could be an incentive. I don't know if the other avatars, Gandhi and Jesus or whatever, I don't know if they got a chance to experience that. I know Jesus did. I don't know about if Gandhi or like Quetzalcoatl or Lao Tzu, if they got a chance to experience that bliss or whatnot, but I did. So, that could kind of make it so that you're like, oh, I'm not really worried about what humans can do to me, because once I'm out of this flesh, I'm right back in the thick of it where everything is all good. You would think that that would be an incentive to keep going. See, I'm not in it for personal gain. You can't be in it for personal gain, so that's not my incentive. The other thing that some people might think is an incentive to wanting to be an avatar is, wanting to make a good impact on the world. Altruism, wanting to be a good person. I mean, that's part of it too. You wanna make everything better than it was when you got there. But there's a darker side to being an avatar. A terrible side. And like I said at the beginning or in the caption of this video, I'm going to do my best not to cry. I don't know how successful I'm going to be in that, but all right, so here's some things you guys have to understand. Again, the avatar perspective, it is the entity that the Christian faith system refers to as Holy Ghost or Holy Spirit. That thing that allegedly descended on Jesus after he was baptized, it now resides within me. I'm not asking you to believe that, but there's more to the story than it just taking up residence inside of a person. It's an entity. It allows you to see reality according to scale. It allows you to see reality for all intents and purposes in absolute pitch. So, what humans are facing right now, not just humans, but extraterrestrials and other such life forms, we are entering into what's going to be a conjoined twin scenario. The universe we presently reside within and are sort of making our way through as we move from planet to planet and terraform and create technologies and transmute and all those other things. Well, it is a living, sentient being. The universe, it is a body. What causes us to sort of expand throughout and aggressively overtake the body of this universe, it is because we are structural building blocks belonging to a parasitic twin universe. These two universes are in utero, The parasitic twin has turned on the healthy, viable twin, and it has been cannibalizing, transforming, and destroying its body. So when all is said and done, all of the end of the world stuff, all of the battle of good versus evil and everything, it really boils down to natural organization, but in the worst fucking way imaginable. Again, the reason why you would never want to be an avatar. So, the avatar perspective, it shows me how things come to pass. And the entity that religion refers to as devil, it is the embodiment, it is the anthropomorphic rendering of corruption. Now, these two twins were in utero. One twin almost died. It got trapped between a state of life and death. And in that moment of uncertainty and that glitch, corruption, the entity of corruption, it attacked and violated this child. And by violated, I mean violated in the worst ways you could possibly imagine. This infant, it got violated. In every way that you could possibly imagine by this entity, corruption. After the violation, this entity, this devil, it gave this injured soul a poisoned weapon to use to try and defend itself against future attacks. And then this entity, it pointed the cellular building blocks of this poor injured soul in the direction of its sibling and in the direction of reality itself, and said, that's what violated you, attack. Now, I don't expect you all to believe what I'm telling you. This is basically what the avatar perspective is showing me. The way that it communicates with me, it's through a series of frames, it's through a series of images. It doesn't speak English. It uses many of my own life experiences to help me understand principles, a lot of things that I lived through, but this is something that it sort of shows me directly. And what it shows me is this image of a little girl who's like a toddler. And she's like a toddler, and she's bleeding from where she was violated. And she's clinging to this knife that this thing gave her. And she's scared for her life. She's scared of being violated again and injured and hurt by this thing. Again, this is what the perspective it shows me. This defenseless little girl. She's clinging to this knife, but she doesn't know that the knife is poisonous. So the longer she's attached to this knife is the more it corrodes her body. And it corrupts her cells. And she's afraid to let go of it because it's the only defense she has. So this trickster, this devil, after it harmed her, it gave her a weapon that was slowly going to kill her. And therein comes the point where you would hate to be Avatar. Because not only is she corrupted where she was violated, she's also corrupted by way of every portion of her that gets touched by this poison dagger. And when you're out of this body, you have to cut away all of the corruption. The way the Avatar perspective shows this little girl to me, it's like she's my own daughter. Could you imagine your daughter being violated? And then, in order to save her, you have to cut away pieces of her for something that was not her fault. You feel a deep connection to all of her cellular building blocks. You know that you're going to have to do some cutting, but you want to save as many cells as you can. So imagine you could shrink yourself down to the size of her cells, and you could try to reach as many of them as you possibly could. Who among you is not corrupt? Please speak up. Who are you? Who among you can hear reality? Who can hear the greater body? You know, there's a Bible verse. It's Matthew 10:34. In it, Jesus said, and it wasn't even Jesus, it was the Holy Ghost or the Avatar perspective or whatever. It basically says, you think I return in peace, but I come with a sword. It comes with a sword to cut away all the cellular building blocks that are corrupt. So when you see me out here, trying to help people, 1 second. When you see me out here trying to help people, it's very much me trying to spare portions of this child's body that have to get cut away. I'm not doing this for fame. I'm not doing this for attention. You do it because you have a vested interest in wanting to save as much of this child as you possibly can. Because it's not her fault. Every aggressor, parasite you see, every cowardly ideologue They all represent the fractured psyche of this violated child. Every racist, every rapist, pedophile, all the aggressive betas, they're phantoms, they're ghosts, they're shells through which her fractured psyche is cast. They've internalized corruption, and most of them have to be cut away. So when I tell you nobody would sign up to do this, there is no glory in this. You hurt for the corrupt more than they know, more than they do, more than they're capable of. You hurt for them on levels of awareness and experience that they don't have access to. And not just because you know what comes after this, but because you know what it means to the universe they're spawned from. You have to injure something that was already injured through no fault of its own. Which is why reality has to destroy corruption. Corruption, the great deceiver, the devil, the creator of imbalance, that which takes joy in creating imbalance and in suffering. It has to cut away. Reality has to cut away and purge and clean every single thing it touches. And the more you internalize corruption, and the more it becomes a part of you, is the more work reality has to do on you to remove it, and the worse it's going to be for you. Which also goes to the point of why after you find out you're this thing, you can't quit. If your baby was on the line and you had to do everything in your power to save as much of your baby as you possibly could, what would you do? So when I ask y'all to stand down, to stop competing and to stop practicing aggression and narcissism, I'm not asking because it makes it easier for me. This is what's happening at the systemic, like at the largest scales of playing this battle between reality and corruption. Reality must destroy corruption, and anybody who internalizes corruption, reality will strike through you in order to purge corruption. It has to. Because if corruption has a place in you, if corruption can work through you, then it can perpetuate through you and create new problems and imbalances. But nobody would sign up to do this. No one. Like, fuck what I have to endure. I'll get my reward when I'm out of this flesh and after I've finished doing something I don't want to do. You know, the Avatar perspective, it just keeps broadcasting this image of this violated and scared little girl holding a knife into my mind. And I get why she wants to fight. I get why she doesn't want to put that knife down. So imagine this violated kid, little baby infant, having to retreat to escapism in order to try and make sense, in order to try and create a space where she was safe. Every personality that you see represents her fractured psyche. All these ways in which she's trying to make herself safe and heal. And she just wants comfort because facing the reality of what happened to her is too much. Maybe she stabbed you with a knife because she's scared and she doesn't understand what's going on. It takes your sense of justice clean off the table. She's doing it because she's hurt. And she doesn't understand what happened. So even when I'm looking at the people at the top of society who've internalized corruption and who take pleasure in causing pain and suffering to others, behind it is the fractured psyche of an infant that's been violated by an entity. Which is why when all is said and done, I do everything in my power to be understanding and to try to help. None of this is, we were all born into this circumstance. It's no one's fault. The only thing we get to choose is whether or not we hold on to corruption or we're brave enough to step into reality. If you step into reality, you get healed. But if you cling to corruption and go deeper and deeper into the inner story, you had to get cut away. And you had to have the corruption purged from you in the worst way imaginable. And to see it all mechanically and understand how it works, nobody would sign up for this. Everything in me wants to just go to that little girl and heal her. And you can't do anything until she puts down that dagger. So you have to keep trying to get her to sync up with reality, but you understand that her escapism is her only is a coping mechanism for some shit that happened to her that and we're experiencing all this at the cellular level. None of this is fun. If you knew what it entailed on the front end, there's no way in hell you would sign up for it, And once you realize what it entails, you know there's no way you could run away. Regardless of how crazy people might think you are. Regardless of how many rumors people create about you or what discomforts you have to power through, something bigger than you needs you to be bigger than yourself in order to bring resolution to a horrific circumstance. My heart aches for all parties involved in this. Because again, it's nobody's fault. So when I ask you to stand down, please stand down. I know we get sort of conditioned into thinking that it's all a pissing contest and a competition for attention, but this just happens to not be one of those circumstances. And anybody who gets in the way of reality, the system trying to reach as many cellular building blocks as possible towards saving as much of this girl's body as possible. Every corrupt cellular building block that stands in the way of reality, they get double damage. For being decided agents of corruption. Please, 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 for the love of God, stand down. I think I'm a wrap there, man. Yo, y'all have a good evening. Before I go, y'all already know what it is. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, and Medium. Check me out there. If you want to help clear the path so I can reach as many people as possible, you can sign up for Patreon or toss something at me through Cash App if you like. I don't even know what to say, man. This is a horrible, horrible circumstance. For those of y'all who got a chance to tune in and you rocked with me through it, I appreciate you, but I'm sure there's more to talk about on this subject, but I'm drained right now. Explaining that, even looking at those principles, even seeing it, it takes everything out of me. It's just heart. It crushes your heart. Because you can never stop. You can't stop seeing the little girl. Y'all have a good night. I'm out.